Welcome back, everyone. I'm Charlotte, and this is my quarantine story time, reading aloud from books of all kinds, but right now starting with a classic, this little novel you know as War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This translation it's a new translation by Richard Pevear and Larissa Volokhonsky. So just want to give credit where it's due. We got cut off yesterday. I've heard that YouTube's having trouble with their content monitoring because more of it's been moved to like automated content monitoring, like through probably artificial intelligence. Sometimes the computer is not always as good as telling what's offensive or copyrighted as humans are. So job security, everyone. The machines haven't taken over yet. So that being said, I'm picking up where I got cut off yesterday. The video from yesterday is back up on my channel. So if you check out my War and Peace playlist, you'll see all of the readings up until now in order, and they're numbered at the end of the title. It'll say one dot, it'll say three numbers separated by a dot. The first number is the volume number because this book is broken up into multiple volumes, and then parts that are the volumes broken up into different parts. And then each of those parts is broken up into different numbered segments. And I'm guessing that's because this book was originally published by Leo Tolstoy as a serial. So it was something that would have come out in a magazine every month or every week. Kind of fun. So kind of like today's television miniseries, except before there's television, people just read their miniseries. So that's how this was. And that's probably maybe why this book got to be so long, because, you don't want to end a good miniseries. So Leo Tolstoy did that. But anyway, so the book is up. There's been, I think this will be the fifth reading that I've done so far, but they're all up under a War and Peace playlist. So you can catch up if you want. If you didn't get to watch yesterday's, I got cut off in the middle, like I said, because of some kind of a content problem, but I think it was like some kind of a bug with the YouTube content management software, because it's back up, no problem. So I'll include the link at the bottom of this video for yesterday's video, so you can check out, I was reading section 5 and 6 from the volume 1 part 1, and I got cut off part of the way through. So I'm going to pick up where I left off in the middle of that section 6. So if you need to catch up on what's going on, jump back in there. But basically, recap. There was the soiree at Anna Pavlovna's house, lots of little intrigues burbling, and now we're back at Prince Andrei and his wife, his pregnant wife's house with their good friend Pierre, who, among other things, is a bastard son of someone well-to-do and is back in Petersburg trying to figure out his fortune. Has just attended the soiree as a sort of first introduction into Russian social life. And he's good friends with Prince Andrei, and they're having sort of a frank discussion at his house. And his wife, Prince Andrei's wife, is complaining that Prince Andrei is treating her differently now that she's pregnant, and he wants to go off to war and leave her alone in the countryside with his family, and she just wants to be in society with her friends. She doesn't understand why they can't have this beautiful society life, and he's clearly a quiet man who has these other aspirations beyond just a quiet, kind of flashy society life. So I'm going to try to pick up where I left off again, and hopefully we'll make it through to this time. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will try to get back to them as soon as possible, and again, we'll pick up again tomorrow. So, like I said, Prince Andrei is trying to stave off an argument/discussion with his wife Lise, and Pierre is sitting in the room at the same time and just kind of agitated by being in the midst of this sort of, husband-wife spat. Let's see. And so we'll pick up with Pierre's thing. Let's see. Prince Andrei. Lise, I beg you to stop, Prince Andrei said, still more expressively. Pierre, who was becoming more and more agitated during this conversation, got up and went over to the princess. He seemed unable to bear the sight of tears and was about to start crying himself. Calm yourself, princess. It seems so to you, because I assure you I myself have experienced... No, excuse me, an outsider in this is in the way here. No, calm yourself. Goodbye. Prince Andrei caught him by the arm. No, wait, Pierre. The princess is so good that she will not want to deprive me of the pleasure of spending an evening with you. No, he thinks only of himself, said the princess, not holding back her angry tears. Lise, Prince Andrei said dryly, raising his tone to a degree which showed that his patience had run out. Suddenly, the angry, squirrel-like expression on the princess's beautiful little face changed to an attractive and compassion-provoking expression of fear. Her pretty eyes glanced from under her eyebrows at her husband, and her face acquired the timid and admissive look of a dog rapidly but weakly wagging its drooping tail. Mon Dieu, said the princess, taking up a fold of her dress in one hand, went over to her husband and kissed him on the forehead. Bonsoir, Lise, said Prince Andrei, standing up and kissing her hand politely as if she were a stranger. The friends were silent. Neither of them would begin talking. Pierre kept glancing at Prince Andrei. Prince Andrei was rubbing his forehead with his small hand. Let's go and have supper, he said with a sigh, getting up and heading for the door. They went into the elegantly, newly, richly decorated dining room. Everything from the napkins to the silverware, china, and crystal bore that special stamp of newness that is found in the households of the recently married. In the middle of supper, the prince leaned his elbow on the table, and with an expression of nervous irritation such as Pierre had never seen in his friend before, began to talk, like a man who had long had something on his heart and suddenly decides to speak it out. Never, never marry, my friend. Here's my advice to you. Don't marry until you can tell yourself that you've done all you could, until you've stopped loving the woman you've chosen, until you see her clearly. Otherwise, you'll be cruelly and irremediably mistaken. Marry when you're old and good for nothing. Otherwise, all that's good and lofty in you will be lost. It will all go on trifles. Yes, don't look at me with such astonishment. If you expect something from yourself in the future, then at every step you'll feel that it's all over for you. It's all closed, except the drawing room where you'll stand on the same level as a clerk flunky and an idiot. Oh, well, he waved his hand energetically. Pierre took off his spectacles, which made his face change, expressing still more kindness, and looked at his friend in astonishment. My wife, Prince Andrei went on, is a wonderful woman. She's one of those rare women with whom one can be at ease regarding one's own honor. But my God, what wouldn't I give now not to be married? You're the first and only one I'm saying this to because I love you. Prince Andrei, in saying this, was less than ever like the Volokhonsky who just sat sprawled in Anna Pavlovna's armchair and narrowing his eyes uttered French phrases through his teeth. His dry face was all a-quiver with the nervous animation of every muscle. His eyes, in which fire of life had seemed extinguished, now shone with a bright, radiant brilliance. One could see that the more lifeless he seemed in ordinary times, the more energetic he was in moments of irritation. You don't understand why I'm saying this, he went on, yet it's a whole life story. You talk of Bonaparte and his career, he said, though Pierre had not talked of Bonaparte. You talk of Bonaparte, but Bonaparte, when he was not working, went step by step towards his goal. He was free, he had nothing except his goal, and he reached it. But bind yourself to a woman, and like a prisoner in irons, you lose all freedom. Whatever hope and strength you have in you, it all only burdens and torments you with remorse. Drawing rooms, gossip, balls, vanity, triviality, that is the vicious cycle I can't get out of. I'm now going to the war, to the greatest war that has ever been, yet I know nothing and am good for nothing. Je suis très aimable et très caustique, Prince Andrei went on, and they listened to me at Anna Pavlova's. And this stupid society without which my life cannot live, and these women, if only you knew what toutes les femmes distinguées and women in general really are. My father is right. Egoism, vanity, dull-wittedness, triviality, and everything. That's women, when they show themselves as they are. Looking at them in society, it seems there's something there, but there's nothing. Nothing. No, don't marry, dear heart, don't marry, Prince Andrei concluded. I find it funny, said Pierre, that you yourself, consider that you have no ability and that your life is ruined. You have everything ahead of you. And he did not say you what, but his tone already showed how highly he valued his friend and how much he expected from him in the future. How can he say that, thought Pierre. Pierre considered Prince Andrei the model of all perfections, precisely because Prince Andrei united in the highest degree all those qualities which Pierre did not possess and which could be most nearly expressed by the notion of strength of will. Pierre always marveled at Prince Andrei's ability to deal calmly with all sorts of people, at his extraordinary memory, his erudition. He had read everything, knew everything, had notions about everything, and most of all at his ability to work and learn. If Pierre had often been struck by Andrei's lack of ability for dreamy philosophizing, for which Pierre had a particular inclination, he saw it not as a defect, but as a strength. In the best, the friendliest, and simplest relations, flattery or praise is necessary, just as grease is necessary to keep wheels turning. Je suis un homme fini, said Prince Andrei. Why talk about me? Let's talk about you, he said, pausing and smiling at his comforting thoughts. This smile was instantly reflected on Pierre's face. But what is there to say about me? Asked Pierre, spreading his mouth into a carefree, merry smile. What am I? Je suis un bâtard. And he suddenly flushed crimson. One could see that it had cost him a great effort to say that. Sans nom, sans fortune. And what, really? He did not say what, really. I'm free so far, and I feel fine, only I have no idea where to make my start. I seriously wanted to ask your advice. Prince Andrei looked at him with kindly eyes, but in his friendly, gentle gaze, a consciousness of his own superiority still showed. You're dear to me, especially because you're the only live person in our whole society. That's fine for you. Choose whatever you like. It's all the same. You'll be fine anyway, but there's one thing. Stop going to those Corrigans and leading that sort of life. It simply doesn't suit you. All this carousing with hussars and all. Que voulez-vous, mon cher, said Pierre, shrugging his shoulders. Les femmes, mon cher, les femmes. I don't understand, replied Andrei. Les femmes comme il fait are another matter, but les femmes of Corrigans, les femmes et les vins, I don't understand. Pierre lived at Prince Vasily Corrigan's and took a part in the dissolute life of his son Anatoly, the same one they planned to marry to Prince Andrei's sister in order to reform him. You know what? Said Pierre, as if a lucky thought had unexpectedly occurred to him. Seriously, I've been thinking for a long time. With this life, I can't decide or even choose anything. I have a headache and no money. He invited me tonight, but I won't go. Give me your word of honor you won't go anymore. Word of honor. It was already past 1 o'clock when Pierre left his friend's house. It was a duskless Petersburg June night. Pierre got into a hired carriage with the intention of going home, but the closer he came, the more he felt the impossibility of falling asleep on that night, which more resembled an evening or a morning. One could see far down the empty streets. On the way, Pierre recalled that the usual gambling company was to gather at Anatoly Corrigan's that evening, after which there was usually drinking, ending with one of Pierre's favorite amusements. It would be nice to go to Corrigan's, he thought, but at once he remembered the word of honor he had given Prince Andrei not to visit Corrigan. But at once, as happens with so-called characterless people, he desired so passionately to experience again that dissolute life so familiar to him that he decided to go, and at once the thought occurred to him that the word he had given meant nothing, because before giving his word to Prince Andrei, he had also given Prince Anatoly his word that he would be there. Finally, he thought all these words of honor were mere conventions with no definite meaning, especially if you considered that you might die the next day, or something so extraordinary might happen to you that there would be no longer be either honor or dishonor. That sort of reasoning often came to Pierre, destroying all his decisions and suppositions. He went to Corrigan's. Driving up to the porch of a large house near the horse guards' barracks in which Anatoly lived, he went up the lighted porch, the stairs, and entered an open door. There was no one in the front hall. Empty bottles, capes, galoshes were lying about. There was a smell of wine, the noise of distant talking and shouting. Cards and supper were over, but the guests had not dispersed yet. Pierre threw off his cape and went into the first room, where the remains of supper lay, and one lackey, thinking no one could see him, was finishing on the sly what was left in a glass of wine in the glasses. From the third room came a racket, guffawing, the shouting of familiar voices, and the roaring of a bear. Some 8 young men were crowded busily by an open window. 3 were romping with a young bear, one of them dragging it by a chain, trying to frighten the others. "I stake 100 on Stevens," shouted one. "Make sure there's no holding on," shouted another. "I'm for Dolokhov," cried a third. "Break the grip, Corrigan. Let Grun be. We're making a bet." "At one go, otherwise you lose," shouted a fourth. "Yakov! Let's have a bottle, Yakov," shouted the host himself, a tall, handsome man who was standing in the midst of the crowd in nothing but a fine shirt open at his chest. "Wait, gentlemen, here's Petrushka, my dear friend." He turned to Pierre. Another voice that was that of a not very tall man with clear blue eyes, especially striking amidst all these drunken voices by its sober expression, shouted from the window, "Come here, break the grip!" It was Dólokhov, an officer of the Semyonovsky Regiment, a notorious gambler and duelist who lived with Anatoly. Pierre smiled, looking around merrily. "I don't understand a thing. What's up?" he asked. "Wait, he's not drunk. Give me a bottle," said Anatoly, taking a glass from the table. He went up to Pierre. "First of all, drink." Pierre started drinking glass after glass, looking from under his brows at the drunken guests, who again crowded by the window and listening to their talk. Anatoly poured the wine for him and told him that Dólokhov was making a bet with the Englishman Stevens, a sailor who was there, that he, Dólokhov, could drink a bottle of rum sitting in the third-floor window with his legs hanging out. "Well, drink it all," said Anatoly, handing Pierre the last glass. "Otherwise, I won't let you go." "No, I don't want to," said Pierre, pushing Anatoly away, and he went over to the window. Dólokhov was holding the Englishman by the hand and clearly, distinctly articulating the terms of the bet, mainly addressing Anatoly and Pierre. Dólokhov was a man of medium height, curly-haired, and with light blue eyes. He was about 25. Like all infantry officers, he wore no mustache, and his mouth, the most striking feature of his face, was entirely visible. The lines of his mouth were remarkably finely curved. In the middle, the upper lip came down energetically on the sturdy lower lip in a sharp wedge, and at the corners something like 2 smiles were constantly formed, one on either side, and all of that together, especially combined with a firm, insolent, intelligent gaze, made up such an expression that it was impossible not to notice this face. Dólokhov was not a rich man and had no connections, and though Anatoly ran through tens of thousands, Dólokhov lived with him and managed to place himself so that Anatoly and all those who knew them respected Dólokhov more than Anatoly. Dólokhov gambled at all games and almost always won. No matter how much he drank, he never lost his clear-headedness. Kuragin and Dólokhov were both celebrities at that time in the world of Petersburg scapegraces and carousers. A bottle of rum was brought. 2 lackeys were tearing out the frame that prevented one from standing on the outer ledge of the window. They were obviously hurrying and intimidated by the orders and shouts of the surrounding gentlemen. Anatoly went up to the window with his victorious look. He wanted to break something. He pushed the lackeys away and pulled at the frame, but the frame did not yield. He smashed a pane. "You next, strong man," he turned to Pierre. Pierre took hold of the crosspieces, pulled, and with a crash, here broke and there ripped out the oak frame. "Away with all of it. Otherwise, they'll think I'm holding on," said Dólokhov. "The Englishman's boasting, eh?" "All right," said Anatoly. "All right," said Pierre, looking at Dólokhov, who was holding the bottle of rum in his hand and was approaching the window, through which the light of the sky could be seen and the glow of morning and evening merging in it. Dólokhov jumped up into the window with the bottle of rum in his hand. "Listen," he shouted, standing on the windowsill and turning to the room. Everyone fell silent. "I put down," he spoke in French so that the Englishman could understand him, and he did not speak the language all that well. "I put down 50 imperials. Want to make it 100? He added, addressing the Englishman. "No, 50, said the Englishman. "Very well, 50 imperials, that I will drink a whole bottle of rum without taking it from my lips, drinking it sitting outside the window on this place." He bent down and indicated the sloping ledge outside the window, "and without holding on to anything. Right?" "Very good," said the Englishman. Anatoly turned to the Englishman, and taking him by the button of his tailcoat, looking at him from above. The Englishman was short. He began repeating the terms of the bet to him in English. "Wait!" cried Dólokhov, tapping the bottle against the window to attract attention. "Wait, Kuragin, listen. If anyone else does the same, I'll pay him 100 imperials. Understand?" The Englishman nodded his head, in no way making it clear whether he did or did not accept this new bet. Anatoly did not let go of the Englishman, and though he had nodded to show he had understood everything, Anatoly translated Dólokhov's words into English for him. A young lean boy, a life hussar, who had gambled away everything that evening, climbed up on the window, stuck his head out, and looked down. "Ooh," he said, looking out the window at the stone pavement. "Attention!" cried Dólokhov, and pulled the officers from the window. Getting tangled in his spurs, the boys jumped down awkwardly into the room. After placing the bottle on the windowsill to have it conveniently at hand, Dolokhov slowly and carefully climbed into the window. Lowering his legs and spreading both hands against the sides of the window, he tried his position, settled himself in, let go with his hands, and shifted a little to the right and to the left and took the bottle. Anatoly brought 2 candles and set them on the windowsill, though it was already quite light. Dolokhov's back in its white shirt and his curly head were lit up from both sides. Everyone crowded by the window. The Englishman stood in front. Pierre smiled and said nothing. One of those present, older than the others, with a frightened and angry face, suddenly moved forward and was about to seize Dolokhov by the shirt. "Gentlemen, this is stupid. He'll kill himself," said this more reasonable man. Anatoly stopped him. "Don't touch. You'll frighten him, and he'll be killed. Eh? What then, eh?" Dolokhov turned, adjusting his position and again spreading his hands. "If anyone else tries to get at me," he said, slowly forcing the words through his compressed and thin lips, "I'll chuck him down from here right now. So." Having said so, he turned his back again, let go with his hands, and took the bottle and put it to his lips, threw his head back, and thrust his free arm up for balance. One of the lackeys, who had begun picking up the glasses, stopped in a bent position, not taking his eyes from the window and Dolokhov's back. Anatoly stood erect, his eyes gaping. The Englishman, his lips thrust out, watched from the side. The man who had tried to stop them rushed to the corner of the room and lay down on the sofa, face to the wall. Pierre covered his face, and with a faint smile remained forgotten on it, though it was now expressed terror and fear. Everyone was silent. Pierre took his hands away from his face. Dolokhov was sitting in the same position, only his head was thrown far back, so that the curly hair at his nape touched the collar of his shirt, and the hand holding the bottle rose higher and higher, trembling and making an effort. The bottle was apparently emptying and rising at the same time, pushing the head back. Why is it taking so long, thought Pierre. It seemed to him that more than half an hour had gone by. Suddenly, Dolokhov made a backward movement, and his arms trembled nervously. This shudder was enough to shift his whole body, which was sitting on the sloping ledge. He shifted completely, and his arm and head trembled still more from the effort. One arm rose to take hold of the windowsill, but lowered itself again. Pierre again shut his eyes and said to himself that he was never going to open them. Suddenly, he felt everything around him stirring. He looked. Dolokhov was standing on the windowsill, his face pale and merry. "Empty!" He tossed the bottle to the Englishman, who deftly caught it. Dolokhov jumped down from the window. He smelled strongly of rum. "Excellent! Good boy! There's a bet for you! Devil take you all!" they cried on all sides. The Englishman, having produced his purse, counted out the money. Dolokhov frowned and said nothing. Pierre climbed into the window. "Gentlemen, who wants to make a bet with me? I'll do the same thing," he shouted suddenly. "There's no need for a bet, that's what. Tell them to bring a bottle. I'll do it. Tell them." Let him, said Dolokhov, smiling. "What, have you lost your mind? Who'd let you? You get dizzy on the stairs," came from the various sides. "I'll drink it. Give me a bottle of rum," Pierre cried. Pounding the table with a determined and drunken gesture, he climbed into the window. They seized him by the arms, but he was so strong that he pushed those who came near him away. "No, you won't get anything with him from that way," said Anatoly. "Wait, I'll trick him. Listen, I'll make a bet with you, but tomorrow. And now let's go, said Pierre. "Let's go. And we'll take Bruin with us." And he seized the bear and, hugging him and lifting him up, began waltzing around the room with him. And that is the end of section 6. We made it through. We didn't get stopped by YouTube. That is excellent. So I'll do a little bit of recap when we jump in tomorrow, but interesting, we're starting to get a little bit more idea of the character of Pierre as well as Anatoly and his compatriots. So the plot thickens. See you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Happy Wednesday.